I'm just going to do a video on the side regarding a excuse me, a discovery that I made within the text of Exodus, within the text of the priestly source. That is, let me put it this way: if a person still holds to Mosaic Authorship, I think you just died. I think your whole foundation was just destroyed with one word. And I'm going to show that on this video. Now, I want to keep in mind that when I go through texts, I usually listen to them when I'm at work. So I listen to audio Bible of Exodus, and I usually listen to, ironically, a translation that most people would never even touch. But it happened to include this word that most translations don't, which is why I picked up on it and immediately noticed something extraordinary. Now, the Mosaic Authorship theory, I can get rid of that with linguistics, I can get rid of that with archaeology, but essentially the theory says that in the 1400s BCE, Moses wrote Genesis through Deuteronomy in the wilderness of Sinai, or in the wilderness on the way to the Promised Land. And I want you to try and think geographically where that is in relation to Israel and in relation to Egypt. It's pretty much to the east of Egypt and south of Judah and Israel. Well, I think we just, with that geography in mind of where Moses is supposedly writing this, and this word, as well as the descriptions of the tabernacle and the tribes in Numbers 2 and 3, you're about to see that this just does not work. Mosaic authorship. Never mind all the other evidence against it. So, we're going to look at 4 different translations, just so you can see it. So this is the King James. So if you're reading this, you're probably going, so what? I don't get it. Well, just bear with me. So Exodus 26:18. And thou shalt make boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards on the south side, southward. And you're like, okay, just a description of the tabernacle. And by the way, this is hidden right in the midst of probably the most boring part of the Bible, the description of the tabernacle. But did you notice that last statement? It said you have to make boards on the south side, southward. That's a little repetitive. Like, it's on the south side, so isn't it going to be southward? You know, you're thinking about that, okay. Well, okay. I wasn't listening to the King James when I go through this. This is the version that I was listening to, and this is the New World Translation. Jehovah's Witnesses use this one. Well, actually, they don't use this one very much anymore. This is an older one, but this is the way it translated. Exodus 26:18. And you must make panel frame for the tabernacle, 20 panel frame for the side toward the Negev to the south. Well, that seems to be a totally different reading, doesn't it? Now you might say, well, the New World Translation's so bad. Well, let's find out what the JPS says. Now I'm going to look for people that, because those 2 translations, the King James and New World Translation, any other ones you're going to get, those are Christian translations. So let's go to ones that are actually Hebrew translations. So this is the JPS. That's not. Exodus 26:18. Of the planks of the tabernacle, make 20 planks on the south side. Well, there you go, New World Translation. Wrong. Because there's a footnote here. And here's what the footnote says. See, it says there that there are two terms for south. So the south side, southward, like the King James says, or toward the Negab to the south. Now, the Negab means south. Let's see what the word says. That's the Negab and towards the Negab. So, yeah, Negab does. Now, here's another Jewish translation by Everett Fox, The Five Books of Moses, 26:18, and you're to make the board for the dwelling, 20 boards on the Negab border, southward. So actually, the New World Translation got it right. So, how you go? So what? So the word Negab means towards the south. But where's the Negab? Here's Google Earth, and or a picture of where the Negab Desert is. Sorry, Moses, you didn't write it. See, that is south of Jerusalem, south of Israel and Judah. That's at the border of Hebron, actually. It starts going into the Negab Desert. So, toward the Negab to the south. Now, the word Negab, referring to the desert, here's a concordance of where the word occurs. And you notice that 4 of those were in the Exodus account of the tabernacle toward the Negab to the south. Now, Moses is south of the Negab. So but the tabernacle is facing south, he's not facing towards the Negab, unless his compass wasn't working that day. What you guys doing? Start the tabernacle southward, and no. Obviously, the priestly text, was writing from north of the Negab, so his mind was going, oh yeah, the south side, south toward the Negab, but toward the south. I should point something out here. Although I agree mostly with Russell Gmerkin on a later dating of each text, I do not agree that it was written in Alexandria. And do you notice that the same problem exists here? Because you cannot, Alexandria is roughly to the southwest of the Negab. West by southwest. So that same problem exists. But there's one other little thing. If you look here, here's the way that Numbers 2 arranges the tribes around the tabernacle. Now you'll notice that the tabernacle was put toward the center of a tribe. Now if you compare this to Joshua, where all the tribes are given their boundaries and where they go, you discover that this is actually not too much different than the way the tribes are arranged. Maybe a little bit of fidgeting here to get free on one side, but roughly this is where the tribes are arranged. Now Numbers 3 has the Levites put into the center in different formations according to family. Now, that implies that the tabernacle is roughly at the center of those tribes. The city of Jerusalem is just around the center of those tribes. In fact, the Kidron Valley, which passes between Mount Zion and Mount Moriah, is the boundary line for Benjamin and Judah. So Jerusalem is smack dab in the center, according to tribal list. with that information in Numbers 2 and 3, and comparing it to Joshua and the tribal divisions, which it's in Joshua that you find out where the boundary line for Benjamin and Judah is. Same author, by the way, in my opinion. P. With that, and with the term toward the Negab to the south, which is why the King James had toward the south, southward, because it's two Hebrew words, as the JPS points out, and as you see. With that, we no longer have any basis for Mosaic authorship at all. These texts were, at least the priestly texts, were written in Jerusalem. And the tabernacle is meant to be centered in Jerusalem. There is no real way out of this. Now, you might point out that I'm using translations. Yes, and two of those are Jewish translations. You might say, what about the Septuagint? What about the Dead Sea Scrolls? The Dead Sea Scrolls use it toward the Negev to the south. The Septuagint doesn't. It glosses over this and says toward the south in Greek, and but so yeah, okay, the Septuagint's a little bit different, but that doesn't make much of a difference. It's trying to. It would be too complicated to translate Hebrew into Greek and have two words for the toward the south. This is a Hebrew linguistic issue. So, this is what I emailed a rabbi and about this word, and this is his response. So, basically, the lexicons, this Hebrew speaking rabbi, plus the Jewish translation, plus the Christian translations, all agree in some way or form that the Negeb is to the south of the tabernacle. So, I know most people wouldn't find out right away, but I managed to uncover it because it's hidden deep. I've never seen anyone put anything out about this before, and I spent the last week and a half going through this, trying to figure out if I'm wrong or not, which I don't think I am, because I've even got a response from a rabbi that agrees with me. So let's put a little gravestone over Mosaic authorship, and let's move on to reality that these texts were written in Jerusalem. Thank you very much.